Citroen has become renowned for making comfortable cars such as the iconic DS, the niche C6 and more recently the C4 hatch. So the car in this video should be no different. It's called the C5 Aircross and it will go toe to toe with the likes of the Nissan Qashqai and the Kia Sportage. Is it magnifique or is it enough to make you shout out sacrebleu? Apologies for my awful French accent. Well, to begin with, I think this is a very stylish car. So the C5 Aircross gets off to a good start. Where other SUVs go for aggressive angular lines, the C5 Aircross has received a curvaceous dollop of French style, which has been garnished with 18-inch alloys, which are standard, and this eye-catching turbocharged paintwork, which is optional. Very nice indeed. Now, before I move into the cabin, I just want to highlight the rear lights because they have got a very funky design to them. They have a 3D effect and they are powered by LED, so when the sun goes down they look absolutely fantastic. One more thing, on the side of the car you have Citroen's famous air bump panels to give the side of the car a little bit more extra protection. Anyway, time to go inside. The cabin, much like the exterior, is a stylish place to be. As standard, because I've got the mid-range Flair model, I've got Citroen's advanced comfort seats, which are, well, very comfortable as you would expect, and they're very plush and very spongy. Yes, they are really, really nice. They are like armchairs to sit in, maybe even better than armchairs. Car makers of the world, this is how you make a comfortable car seat. Citroen, well done. Take a bow, you've done well here. The seats have also got a bit of leather on them as well, and there's quite a few splashes of leather around the cabin. Very nice indeed. You've got a nice design feature on the dashboard, leather on the centre console, leather steering wheel. You've also got gloss black detailing and soft touch materials on the doors. So the inside of the C5 Aircross is a pretty pleasing place to be. However, that counts for nothing if this car isn't practical. This is a family SUV after all. Thankfully, practicality is pretty good. The door bins are of a good size, although you can't fit a bottle of drink in there, not unless you lay it down, which isn't too much of an issue. But when you drive along, the bottle is likely to slide about and make a bit of noise. Thankfully, you do have two cup holders in the middle. So I've got a cup of coffee here. I've got my bottle of drink here. The only downside is for me specifically, this may not affect you, but when I go to change gear, the bottle gets in my way. So that is a little bit annoying. But you get a slot down here where you can fit your smartphone or a few smaller items, and it is pretty deep actually, it is pretty good. You've also got a USB port in there and a 12-volt socket. You've got a central armrest here, which is trimmed in leather. Open it up like so, and you'll find it is pretty deep in here. In fact, I think it's deeper than some mines. That is pretty deep in there. I think I need to send a canary in there. Yes, very, very deep and very, very spacious. You've also got a little tray just here, just trimmed in a kind of velvet kind of material, kind of suede like material. Got a few small items in there. That's pretty spacious, but the glove box is far from spacious because it is minuscule. Now, one of the drawbacks of Citroens and Peugeots is when they convert the car from left-hand drive to right-hand drive, they don't move the fuse box, meaning that for us Brits or anyone who has the car in right-hand drive, we get a very small glove box. So I can just about fit in a packet of my Monster Munch. And there really isn't much space left over, so the glove box is comically small. But apart from that, space on the inside is pretty good. But what about the rear? Space in the rear is pretty good. As always, the driver's seat has been set for me. I am 6'2", so I am of course a taller person. God, my word, it's windy today. But even so, I've got a good amount of space left over. Okay, knee room isn't amazing, but I do have enough. However, leg room is pretty good. Got no issues there, and I can fit my feet underneath the seat in front of me, so I can stretch back and relax. Headroom is also pretty good. I've got an ample amount, so if you are a taller person, fear not, the back of the C5 Aircross should be absolutely fine for you. Now, the rear seats, They are independent to one another and they have the same width. Therefore, fitting 3 adults in the back should be pretty easy because each seat is the same width. Also, the transmission tunnel is very minimal, so even in the middle seat, you should have a decent amount of space. I can put my legs out like so with no issues, and I've still got plenty of headroom. So yes, very spacious back here. Better still, you also get a USB port, so someone in the rear can charge up their smartphone or their tablet. Very practical indeed. Oh, I almost forgot, the rear seats also slide backwards and forwards, so if you want to have more boot space, you can slide the rear seats forward like so. Or if you want to give your rear occupants more space, more legroom, then you can slide them back like so. Speaking of the boot, how big is it? The back may be spacious, but it is the boot where this car really impresses. Lift up the rather heavy tailgate, and you'll be greeted by 580 litres worth of space. But if you slide the rear seats forwards, you will get 720 litres worth of space. Want more space though? No bother, because you can of course fold the rear seats down altogether to enjoy 1,630 litres, which means this SUV pretty much becomes a van. And what's better still is the opening is nice and wide, it's very practical, and the load lip is minimal. So if you want to load bigger, heavier items, it should be a piece of cake. Also, when you fold the rear seats down, they fold fairly flat, and better still, as standard, you get a spare wheel, which nowadays is a bit of a rarity. Pretty good Citroen, but please give us a lighter tailgate. Now, if you go for the range-topping Flair Plus model, you do get an electric tailgate, which does get around this problem. But yeah, Citroen, it's a bit heavy. So it's practical, spacious and comfortable, but how does it drive? Now, normally at this point, I would start by talking about the engines. However, I'm not going to do that. Well, not yet anyway. What I really want to talk about is the suspension. Now, like the C4 hatchback I drove last year, the C5 Aircross has got Citroen's progressive hydraulic cushion suspension. Now that may seem like a lot of marketing mumbo jumbo, but let me explain what it is, because to be truthful, it is a very good system. So when you have your normal suspension, you have your shock absorber and your spring, and you have mechanical bump stops at either end. What Citroen has done is binned the mechanical bump stops and in their place fitted hydraulic bump stops. Now, to put it into simple terms, what that basically means, when you hit a pothole or a bump or any imperfection in the road, normally with a spring, it would of course absorb the energy, but it would feed some of it back when it rebounds. However, the hydraulic cushion, not only does it absorb the energy, but it doesn't feed it back. So it absorbs all of the energy and you don't get any nasty feedback from the suspension. Not only do they absorb the energy created by the bump, but the bump stops don't feed it back into the suspension. Therefore, you don't get any nasty rebounds. Now, of course, that is just my brief way of explaining it, but does it work in the real world? Yes, it does. In fact, it works pretty well. This road in particular is pretty beaten, is pretty sodden. Yet down here, I'm gliding along. It is a very smooth riding car, very comfortable. Yeah, it is a real joy. It's definitely a lot more smoother in its ride compared to the Kia Sportage I had a few weeks back. That had a very busy ride, but the C5 Aircross, it's almost skipping over the tarmac. Now, of course, there is a downside to having a car that is so focused for comfort, handling. Now, I'm not going to give this car too much of a hard time when it comes to handling, because let's face it, it wasn't designed to be dynamic. But in case you are interested in how this car tackles corners, well, as you would expect, there is a bit of body roll to contend with. The steering, I'm not a big fan of it. I wouldn't say the steering's light, but the weighting and the feedback, it all feels a little bit artificial to me. It doesn't quite feel real. But would I rather have this than light steering? I suppose, but yes, the steering, it just feels a little too artificial to me. As well as offering a good amount of comfort, it's a refined car as well. Despite riding on big alloys, there's not much tyre noise coming in. Wind noise is well controlled. The engine, when you're cruising, is nigh on silent. So this is the type of car you can easily drive for a long distance and not get any real fatigue. In fact, I drove this from London to Norwich without stopping, and when I got to my destination I still felt energised and I still felt refreshed. So that's pretty good, bearing in mind that drive was about 2 hours and 45 minutes. And like I say, I didn't stop once. So that is pretty good. This engine also makes a pretty nice thrum. If I drop it down a gear, like so, I think it makes quite a good noise. And even when you rev it hard, it's never boomy or shouty, and refinement of the engine is pretty good. Now, speaking of engines, there are 4 available for the Citroen C5 Aircross, 2 petrol and 2 diesel. The engine I have is the 1.2 litre 3-cylinder turbocharged petrol, the PureTech 130 engine. It's called PureTech 130 because it has exactly 129 horsepower. I suppose 130 is a bit more catchy than 129. Along with the 129 horsepower, I have 230 newton meters of torque. This power is mated to a 6-speed manual gearbox and front-wheel drive. If you want to have the Citroen C5 Aircross with all-wheel drive, then I'm afraid you can't. You can have a feature called grip control, which gives you different driving modes, including an off-road driving mode, and you also get different tyres as well to give you better grip when you're going off-road or driving in slippery conditions. But yes, you can't actually get a proper all-wheel drive system for this car. But this car is, you look at it, it's too stylish to go off-road. You get a sense that, given the choice, it wouldn't go anywhere near mud. Oh no, I don't want to get my fancy alloys dirty. Oh no. I'll stick to the town centres, thank you very much. Let's talk about the gearbox. So as I mentioned, I have a 6-speed manual, and it's okay. Like other PSA group cars I've driven, the 6-speed manual gearbox is quite notchy. Although what I will say is it does feel a little bit smoother in this car compared to other Citroens and Peugeots I've driven. So maybe Citroen and Peugeot are improving. Now, for those of you looking for an automatic, you can have one. You can have an 8-speed automatic, but not with this engine. You would need to have the more powerful petrol engine or one of the diesel engines. This 1.2 litre engine is flexible. It works well in all driving conditions, even on the motorway. It works well in town. However, when you want to put your foot down and make a bit of progress, you can. It is quite a punchy, peppy engine. Now let me talk you through some performance stats. This car will hit 62 miles per hour in 10.5 seconds and continue to a top speed of 117 miles per hour.
It's a pleasant drive then, but how much will it set you back?
As I mentioned earlier, this is the Flair model, which sits in the middle of the range. It starts from £25,325, which is a little bit more than a mid-range Nissan Qashqai, but a little bit cheaper than the Edition 25 of the Kia Sportage, which has a similar amount of equipment. What about the Peugeot 3008? Well, a similar spec to this would cost you over £26,000. So the C5 Aircross is competitively priced, but what do you get for your money? Well, you get 18-inch alloys, those wonderful LED rear lights, 8-inch touchscreen, DAB radio, Bluetooth, smartphone connectivity, navigation, reversing camera with a round view, front and rear parking sensors, park assist, electronically adjustable driver's seat, automatic lights and wipers, 12.3-inch digital display, a good suite of safety systems and dual zone climate control. So needless to say, there's a fair amount for your money. God blimey, I need a breather, I need a drink after all that. God blimey. Whew.
That's how much it is to buy, but what about the running costs?
Now let's talk fuel economy. On a combined run using the new WLTP method of testing, this engine will give me 40.9 miles to the gallon, and in my experience I've been getting around 40, so that's pretty bang on. Now of course this isn't the most frugal engine of the bunch. If you want better fuel economy, then take a look at the 1.5 litre diesel, because that offers around 55 mpg. In regards to emissions, this engine emits 121 grams per kilometre, meaning for the first year of VED you'll have to pay £165. However, if you are watching this video after the 1st of April 2019, that fee jumps up to £170, so bear that in mind. If you go for the 1.5 litre diesel, that emits around 110 grams per kilometre of CO2, so for the first year of VED you'll be required to pay £145 now, or if it's after the 1st of April it will be £150. Now that's the fuel economy out of the way and the emissions. What about the other kind of running costs? Well, in regard to insurance, this car that I'm driving right now falls into insurance group 17E, which is about the same as the Suzuki Vitara I drove a few weeks back. Yes, I know the Vitara isn't in the same class as this car, but I'm just giving you an example. Yes, the Vitara I drove, the 1.4 litre all-grip version that had the 17E insurance group. But what about warranty? Well, this comes standard with a 3-year warranty, which is pretty much standard for most cars, so that should hopefully give you peace of mind, because I know Citroens and Peugeots aren't renowned, well, they're not known to be the most reliable cars going, although I doubt this will give you too many issues.
How safe is it? A family SUV needs to offer a high amount of safety, and this is an area where the C5 Aircross does very well. As standard, buyers will get safety kit such as 6 airbags, hill start assist, lane departure warning, blind spot warning, and autonomous emergency braking. Thanks to this amount of kit, Euro NCAP awarded this car 5 stars, however there is a caveat. All UK models will get 5 stars as they all come with their safety pack, but this safety pack is optional in other countries, and without it, the Euro NCAP rating falls down to 4 stars.
When I drove the Citroen C3 Aircross and the C4 hatchback last year, I must admit I never properly bonded with them, but the same cannot be said for the Citroen C5 Aircross, as I have quickly grown to appreciate it. Okay, it isn't the most dynamic car in its class, but if you want to drive about in style and comfort, I really don't think you can do much better in its class, because, well, I think it's second to none. It also offers a good amount of practicality, lots of space, a good amount of kit and a good amount of safety equipment. So I think this car will appeal to a lot of buyers, and in fact, I'd be sadder than I thought I would be to hand it back to Citroen. The Citroen C5 Aircross, c'est magnifique. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you have enjoyed it. If so, give it a massive thumbs up. If you are subscribed, don't forget to click that bell icon so you get notified every time I make a video. And if you aren't subscribed, guys, what are you waiting for? Be sure to subscribe for more car obsession.